I'd say there are two almost contradictory directions that my work goes in. One is based in chance and using chemistry, mixing science, and that's on the one side, and on the opposite side, very controlled, minimal monochrome work, not involved with chance at all. And this is called Waterstones. I took a block of limestone which has been watered since '96. So that work has been active since then, and in the 10 years, slowly the water has eroded the stone, and I chose limestone because it's particularly soft. The glass globe, I made two versions of these. Here, in fact, is another one, and it's a teardrop shape. And back in '96, I was thinking of materials that I could bring the water inside, because I'd been watering these stones outdoors with just weather. And, you know, how would I do that? And then I thought, well, I could put it in some kind of a dropping funnel and, you know, drop it slowly over time. There's the actual boulder, which is a salt crystal, and it comes from Cleveland, which is the closest salt mine, again, to Manhattan. This painting that I'm sitting in front of is on linen. The materials, again, the varnish, which is how you would apply silver, and the liver of sulfur. It is open to air and will change daily, and particularly in rain with the atmosphere. First show at LA MoCA in California. Here's one right here. This was a work that was Vermont marble and pyrite and left outdoors to weather. I would sometimes leave them out 6 months or a year or several years before I would exhibit them. Awareness. I would say that the essential interest for myself, and perhaps projected through the work, is a sense of awareness. And that comes, I studied or practiced meditation for many years. So that kind of attention to just the breath, for instance, to nothingness. And then, by extension, say awareness in nature. For instance, bank plaques where there would be a verdigris stain bleeding down on limestone faced buildings. I would observe that and make copper works, bronze works that would bleed a verdigris stain. Understanding of the monochrome of minimal art came the last. I didn't get it before. It looked like nothing. When works change, or are open-ended, there's a great deal of intensity, the same way you would see a flower that's alive, you know it's not going to last, and it has a certain vibrancy in that particular moment that you're seeing it, in that arc. This is a work on canvas. So I was looking for materials that just by nature would be volatile, and all you'd have to add was a very slight catalyst to it. I was thinking of doing a piece with powdered sulfur, and this company in New Jersey sent me 300 pounds of sulfur. So I had this great bonanza, you know, great lot of material that I could use to make paintings. It was really from looking at Yves Klein and his monochromes, and I became very attracted, and I felt that it was a kind of refinement of the eye. This began as another one of these non-art projects. The salt in the center was just a pour to see what would happen, and over years it hardened. It's hard as rock. If you bang on that, look at that solid piece of salt. And I put it on the steel plate. I put on various works that had nothing to do with it. These were mercury bottles that didn't pan out, and there's pyrite and zinc. So at first I was pouring the globe, and this is just a little bit of sulfur that was in there. This was called Photograph of God, and this was a collodion that I'd made. This stone actually ignites. Well, this is a thorn branch that I've pigmented in part. And this, I've forgotten what this is. There are various experiments along the way where I was working, and they're byproducts. So the title of this piece, in fact, it became a piece, was called By Byproducts. I was born across town on East 88th Street. Now I live at West 105th Street, so I haven't moved that far. And my mother actually still lives in the building I was born in. I was born at home, as were all my brothers and sisters. It began with my father, who started teaching me to read, drawing a book. He would draw the images, for instance, pan, and then write the word pan. My father, whose interest was in modern art, and I was introduced to Cézanne and the canon through him. I was very interested in my early teens, around 15, in the Dadaist Manifesto. In '69, I went to art school. Was there for 5 years, Boston Museum School. During the summer, I went to the West Coast and studied ceramics with Pete Volkos. From 1975 is a claimed fire hose. I put a label next to the fire hose at the Metropolitan Museum and determined that every time I come to the museum just casually, I would arm myself with an extra label in case it wasn't there. And after several years, lo and behold, too, my label was up. And that emboldened me to take a photograph of it and to make a postcard of my work, which I did. The postcard, I published in an edition of 1,000 and continued to supply the Met's card shop. And they were bought, actually, by all kinds of people, including a designer at Saks who blew them up 4 feet and colored them a la Warhol. In 1980, they bought the original photograph. In 1992, they published an official postcard. And in 2006, they just acquired the hose itself as a sculpture in their collection.